chapter and a member of the Resist US-led war movement. Welcome to our online forum, Voices of Resistance, Stop the Genocide. This event is co-organized by the ILPS and the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty. As part of our unconditional solidarity with the Palestinian people, this online forum will serve as a platform to highlight the voices of Palestinian resistance movements and grassroots organizations. Situation of the U.S. Zionist occupation and resistance of Palestine by hearing the perspectives of Palestinians themselves.
Courageous speakers. First, our keynote speaker is Lei.la Khaled, a Palestinian activist and a longtime active leader of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or PFLP. She is also a member of the Palestine Liberation Organization's Palestinian National Council and is widely viewed as a revolutionary within the Palestinian national movement. Our second speaker is Razan Zuayter. She holds an MS in agriculture, and she is the founder and president of the Arab Group for the Protection of Nature. And she is also the founder of the Arab Network for Food Sovereignty. Razan co-chairs the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty and is a member of the Committee for Hunger Eradication within the League of Arab States. Our third speaker is the spokesperson of the Global Campaign to Return to Palestine, a network of non-government organizations that support the Palestinian cause, both in the Arab region. We have Dr. Abdul Malek Sukkarieh. Cody?
Thank you so much, Lisa. So to start us off, it's my honor to introduce someone whose words and actions have inspired me for years. Please, everyone, welcome Lei.la Khaled.
Thank you very much. This is my honor to talk to you all. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Lei.la.
It's in these days. Stop genocide. Who is hearing this? The West government, the imperialists, USA? Are they hearing this, or are they seeing what's happening in Gaza? That anyone who has a piece of conscience will be in sad moment and in very bad mood to see that this is happening in the 21st century. But it's happening in Gaza. Let me tell you that our enemies, who are the same enemies that you are fighting, the imperialists, the Zionists, the Israelis, these are the forces that inflict the whole world with their brutal attack against our children in Gaza. They are not only attacking the children, but the family, the parents, the grandparents also. They are attacking every family, even those newborn babies who were in incubators. They cut every source of like electricity or oxygen or so. These children are dying now. Just 15 minutes ago, I have seen how many children need help in this world. But we don't look at them only to be sad, but we look at the bright scene in the whole world. Gaza area is 360 square kilometers, inhabited by 2.5 million people. This is the most condensed people living in this small area. But Gaza now has an area, the whole world now, Gaza, because we saw you in streets, you're calling for stopping genocide. We saw all peoples of the world, from Washington to Europe to Japan to Philippines to everywhere, and in the Arab world as well. But I say that because you are with us, then we can bear the responsibility of the death children in Gaza. And we can be patient enough, because we have been patient enough as a people since 1 century, since 1917, when Balfour Declaration was recognized by the United Nations at that time after the First World War. Anyhow, I'm not here to speak about history, but to remind in some stops where our people were sometimes making uprisings or holding arms to defend themselves from the Zionist hegemony and the American hegemony. Also, we are looking forward that we can pass this difficult time to a brighter one, because we believe that peoples of the world now are adopting the Palestinian narrative. The Palestinian narrative was absent at that since 100 years ago. Only the Zionist narrative was adopted by the whole world, especially after the Second World War. And now we are now looking forward to answer the question, what should be done? First of all, I call upon you not only to raise the slogan, stop genocide. We want to have an action on governments to change their attitude toward Israel. Those who are attacking us, they are war criminals. Until now, the ICC is not taking steps to see what they have as evidences that it is genocide, that they should begin directly. We have to also to call upon the ICC to continue and to begin the investigation about this. At the same time, we call upon peoples of the world, including yourselves, that to not only to go to streets. It's very important. I tell you that when we have contacts with our comrades in Gaza, they tell us when we see if we have electricity, because they don't have electricity. From the 7th of October, at the beginning of the attack, the Israelis cut electricity, water, and food for our people. And they added also, they cut the internet. with the help of the huge tech companies who can do that for the sake of the Zionists who are in Israel now. You have seen just from the beginning that Israel was shocked with the attack, the first attack. I don't say it's attack, it's self-defense. We are a people under occupation, then we have the right to revolt against our occupants. And this is not a new thing to us. It was adopted by the United Nations, item 8 in the Charter. People under oppression or occupation have the right to defend themselves even by armed struggle. We are using our right to attack those occupants who all the time launch war after a war in Gaza, especially in Gaza and in the West Bank. They were launching wars against us in diaspora. They destroyed our camps in Lebanon. That was before 1982 until 1982. And I have to remind you that the Zionist approach to occupy Palestine was by force, by terrorist acts, by massacres. They made many massacres in Palestine in 1948. And this is their way to deal with another people. They came with a lie that the world accepted it or believed in it. They called that a land without people to a people without a land. And they occupied Palestine. They kicked us by force from our home and from our properties in Palestine. Now they are continuing the same way to deal with our people. Now they are asking people to leave Gaza. But I tell you, no one in Gaza now under attack and under fire will accept to leave the land, because this is our land. It's our right to defend it by all means, including armed struggle. So they cannot make us to be afraid of them when they call us terrorists. But let us look at who is terrorist. Who is a terrorist? It's the imperialists, it's the occupants, it's the Zionists, it's all those together. They are the terrorists. They launch wars everywhere in the world, and they prevent the people to have their dignity and to have their independence. We have learned in history that people of government, their occupy force can prevent us to reach to this. Are seeing what's happening. Millions of
Recording in progress.
We are a people on our land. We are this land was inhabited by people, and they discovered that afterwards when they began to attack us. Comrades and friends, I'm really in a, if I say I'm happy, I will be lying. The crimes that I have, the power and the strength when I see you speaking to us, expressing your solidarity to us. There are many means of solidarity to a people under attack now. And every day we hear more and more martyrs are in Gaza, and the wounded. They are attacking the hospitals, which should be according to international human rights law. But Israel always acted as a state above international law. And until now, Israel was not punished even by condemnation in the Security Council of the United Nations. Why? It's because a part of this camp of enemies against peoples of the world, not only against the Palestinians, but when we are speaking these days about the Palestinians, because they are under attack. Look how they dealt with the Ukraine crisis. They have double standards always in dealing with things. It's according to their interests in our countries, to prevent us from our resources, to prevent us to be free in our countries, on our land, and to have self-determination. These are the rights of the Palestinians. Some years we hear about initiatives coming from, once from Bush, once from Sharon, once from, but always from these circles. They offer us initiatives to see what we want, but they don't know our needs. They know only their needs. Look, this time Israel asked for protection, and a state that cannot protect itself, it means that it's a failure for it. So they asked the Americans. Biden directly sent the ammunition, sent arms, sent counselors, sent the ships to the Mediterranean, and so to support Israel. But Israel now is living in a crisis. I tell you that this crisis is from the society itself, from the way they control their state. This is an apartheid state, and we are sure that apartheid should be, we have ended apartheid since 1994, and now again another state adopting apartheid policy to face our people and their people. The Ashkenaz in Israel are ruling the state of Israel, but they deal with the Jews who came from the east. They deal with them as citizens number 2 or 3, because they don't deal with us as citizens. They deal with us as number 10. But we have in our history all the time defending ourselves, defending our humanity, defending our ID, because they don't want to hear that there are people with an ID called Palestinian. But now we have it. We have it even if we don't have the passport, even if so. But I'm sure that you will have many suggestions to help us. And I'm sure also that by the end of this year, we will be victorious. It's not because we are defending ourselves, but because you are with us, and millions of people are with us. And this will give us more strength to face those war criminals in Tel Aviv. And at the end of the day, people, when they revolt, when they decide to defend their humanity and to achieve dignity for the people, then we will be victorious. I tell you a sentence by the end of my introduction, that if injustice is the system, then the revolution is a duty, and we are doing our duty You are doing your duty because you are facing the same enemies we are facing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lei.La. You're absolutely right. We have to be relentless in exposing the genocidal war crimes of the Zionists. But like you said, in the end, our enemies are all the same, and a free Palestine is the cause for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
As a reminder to everyone here, we have some questions I already see coming in the chat. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, especially for media, and we'll pose them at the end. Now, we'll introduce our second speaker. Please welcome Razan Zuayter.
Thank you very much, Cody. Do you hear me?
Yes, loud
Yes.
and clear.
Assalamu alaikum, dear comrades. It's heartwarming to see us all together at this moment. Comrades, after the 7th of October, the world is not the same as it was before. On this pivotal date, imperialism and settler colonialism their masks and divided the resistance on the other. Colonial wars driven by a quest for conquest and economic gains. These were wars which were named as such by their perpetrators, Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike in Palestine, forgetting that Jesus Christ, 700 on the and motivations that it is currently organized.
Recording in
That
progress.
call Jews the rightful heirs of Palestine. 1907, the British Prime Minister, Sir Henry Campbell Bannerman, organized a conference in Belgium, Spain, and Italy. They decided that the Arabs, if united, were a very big threat to European countries, and decided to promote division and separation in the region and to establish a buffer state in Palestine populated by a strong foreign presence that would be hostile to its neighbors and friendly to European countries and their interests. 1916, the French and the British agreed through the Sykes-Picot Agreement to divide the Arab land between themselves. 1917, the Jews were only 6% of the population of Palestine, and they owned only 4% of the land. Came Arthur Balfour, the foreign British minister at that time, and issued a declaration promising them to give them Palestine. In 1922, controlled also at this time by imperialist powers, the League of Nations put Palestine under the British mandate. And this was from 22 to 1948. The British promoted, and their allies of the European countries, promoted waves of European Jewish immigration into our land, trained and armed terrorist Zionist groups, and oppressed through arrests, torture, mass punishment, and execution of all Palestinians who tried to protect their people and their land. Even those who had a single bullet, the British hanged them. Despite the horrific war crimes committed, Palestinians have displayed legendary resilience and resistance all through the 100 years. 1921 was the first uprising in Jaffa, followed in 1929 by the Burak uprising. The biggest uprising was the Arab revolt 1936, following the death of the resistance fighter Izz al-Din al-Qassam. This name, you might have heard it, was adopted by the resistance movement now in Gaza. It was during this uprising that my father, Akram Zuayter, was the first prisoner by the British and the final one to be released from prison by the British oppression. 1937, during the Arab Revolt, Winston Churchill declared the same Crusaders' values. Open quotation. I do not agree that the dog in a manger has the final right to the manger, even though he may have lain there for a very long time. I do not admit that right. I do not admit, for instance, that a great wrong has been done to the Red Indians of America or the Black people of Australia. I do not admit that a wrong has been done to these people by the fact that a stronger race, a higher grade race, a more worldly wise race, to put it that way, has come in and taken their place. Close quotation. 1939, the British smashed the 3 years long revolution with very cruel measures. 1948, the year of the Nakba, tens of massacres took place, slaughtering thousands of Palestinians, demolishing more than 530 villages of earth. Massacres of Deir Yassin, Qisaria, displacing more than 750,000 people out of Palestine into tents outside Palestine. In the same year, at the Nakba, UN Resolution 194, calling for the right of return for Palestinians, were approved by all countries, but had never been applied, like hundreds of resolutions for Palestinians. However, the massacres continued. 1956, the Kufr Qasim and Khan Yunis massacres took place. In 1964, by founding the PLO and established one Palestinian, Christians and Jews live as citizens with equal rights and obligations. But here comes again, 1967, backed by the Imperial United States, Israel fractions joined in a street war with the occupation, and whenever a leader is assassinated, a new leader is born. The Islamic resistance in Lebanon, who armed, trained, and financed the Palestinian resistance in Gaza, and managed to liberate southern Lebanon in year 2000, and achieved a big wave of victory in 2006, entered the battle on the second day of the war, blessing the battle of Al-Aqsa flood. This resistance forced the enemy to mobilize 1/3 of its army to the south of Lebanon, to the north of Palestine. It challenged the United States, which moved aircraft carriers and battleships to the Mediterranean coast in preparation for any escalation. And the resistance stressed that these forces were under its gaze in direct threat, which prompted Washington to send a nuclear submarine in anticipation of resistance operations. In Syria and Iraq, the Pentagon announced that US military personnel in Syria and Iraq were attacked 23 times in 2 weeks. Symbolically, tens of thousands of Iraqis' resistance are still massed on the Jordanian-Iraqi border, ready to march to fight in Palestine. In Yemen, the Sana'a army announced an exceptional front that gave very great moral support to the Palestinian resistance through bombing the enemy using rockets and drones. One form of resistance that is very highly appreciated by the Palestinians is the power of international solidarity, which has escalated in the last few weeks. The millions of protesters from all over the world exposed the inhumanity of the genocide partners. Also, this resistance, including the power of boycotts, gave hope to the Palestinians that they are not alone. What makes this war unlike any other is the retaliation and deterrence by the resistance caused great losses on the enemy's front. The occupation is grappling with ongoing losses, and despite extensive efforts to impose a media blackout, these losses are becoming increasingly difficult to conceal. An Israeli newspaper has even reported a great crisis, estimating that the economic toll of the war on Gaza could reach 51 billion. Furthermore, morale in Israel is decreasing, with hundreds of thousands of illegal settlers opting to return to their home countries. To conclude, as this region defeated Crusaders countries centuries ago, the resistance all over the world will do the same in Palestine. This is best expressed by Samih Al-Qasim, the resistance poet of Palestine. He addresses the Zionists by saying, "Invade, invade. Every sky above you is hell, and every land beneath you is hell. Invade. Children and elders die among us, yet they do not surrender. Mothers fall upon their slain sons, yet they do not surrender. Invade, invade with your armored vehicles and your heaps of hatred. Threaten, displace, kill, destroy. You will not break our depths. You will not defeat our longings. We are the final verdict. Invade, invade." Comrades, I thank you a lot for listening, and I hope we all have now a good answer for those who ask us, do you condemn Hamas? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Razan. You gave us so many examples that throughout history, ever since the first moment imperialism reached out to touch Palestine, the people, like you said, have always and continue to be the final verdict. Thank you so much. And now we'll introduce our third and final speaker. Please welcome Abdul Malek Sukkarieh. I believe we have a video that our tech team is preparing right now. We're just asking briefly one moment as we get the video ready. Thank you to all the questions that are coming in. We have a lot of them. We'll get to as many as we can. Remember that we are prioritizing questions from media so we can help get out the voices of resistance to the media to make sure that the world can hear from the Palestinian people themselves. But please keep asking your questions. We will pose, our team is prioritizing certain questions and we will pose them at the end. And again, oh, here is the video.
Dear friends, greetings to you from Lebanon, the Northern Palestinian Front. All thanks and appreciation to International League of People's Struggle and People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty for organizing this meeting, which expresses the unity of the free people of the world in confronting the forces of evil, imperialism, and colonialism. Dear friends, what's happening today in Gaza is unprecedented massacres in the current era and a Zionist assault of all aspects of life, accompanied by an absolute American and Western green light and all kinds of support. Dear friends, the project of establishing the Zionist entity was a means of solving one of Europe's biggest problems by exporting it to other places and turning it into an opportunity and investment as well. From here, we understand the desire of Western regimes to protect this illegal functional entity, which represent the greatest tool in securing colonial interest. Therefore, we consider Western governments to be actual partners in the massacre taking place on the land of Gaza these days. And they are the ones fighting there, not only with their weapons, equipment, diplomats, and money, but also with their soldiers and officers personally. This imperialist political and military scene is accompanied by a similar scene on the media level in order to support Zionist lies and narratives that distort the image of the honorable struggle of the Palestinian resistance to the point of accusing it of attacking its Palestinian people and targeting hospitals and ambulances, in addition to diminishing the true picture of the Palestinian national struggle. Dear friends, through this data, it's possible to talk about a real and important role of Ahrar, free people, in these days and this dangerous stage. It's a multi-dimensional role that includes stating the following fact and disseminating them to all people. 1. The confrontations that the Palestinian people are waging today in the face of the brutal Zionist army supported globally is a confrontation between an entire people who want to liberate their land and replacement settler colonialism. 2. The Zionist entity represents the head of the global imperialist project, and Palestine is the first tranche of confrontation between all the free people of the world and those seeking justice and peace for oppressed people on the one hand, and the global imperialist power on the other side. And all the free people of the world are concerned with this battle because they are truly and truly involved in it. 3. The people of the world must have their position and loud voice in this confrontation. And all intellectuals and activists must support the important movement witnessed by various countries of the world and work to invest this positive energy to liberate world public opinion, which is the greatest victim of the Zionist imperialist lies, and to transform this popular movement became an impetus for confronting the global imperialist project and supporting revolutionary forces, most notably the Palestinian resistance. 4. Informing people about the horror of the crimes committed by the Zionist imperialist alliance against the Palestinian people in all the Palestinian territories, and raising awareness of the importance of supporting the resistance in Gaza and in all the Palestinian territories, West Bank, Jerusalem, and Palestinian in 1948 living in that area. Dear friends, within the framework of this vision, the global campaign to return to Palestine works as a comprehensive coordination framework for civil society.
Okay, I believe that is the end of Abdul's video. Thank you so much, Abdul, speaking to us again from southern Lebanon, as he described the northern front of the united Palestinian resistance. Thank you to all of our speakers, Lei.La, Razan, and Abdul. We're now going to go into the open forum part where we will, oh, my apologies, where we will hear your questions and have our speakers answer. But before we do, we want to give a big shout out to all of the people from around the world who are tuning in today. Just from the countries we have registered here, we have people calling in from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Belgium, Canada, Chile, China, Egypt, France, Germany, Hong Kong, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Jordan, Lebanon, Lithuania, Mexico, Morocco, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Pakistan, Philippines, and the United States. If you didn't hear a country that you're calling in from, put it in the chat. This is truly a global gathering to hear the voices of resistance from Palestine. So now we're going to move on to our open forum. And again, we remind everyone to rename yourselves properly. And if you have any affiliation or organization or media outfit, please indicate it in your Zoom names as well so you can be recognized when you ask your questions. We also do this to prioritize the questions from media. You can put down your questions in the Zoom chat box or click the raise hand button at the bottom and wait to be recognized by the tech team, and then I will call on you if you want to ask the question yourself. And indicate if your question is addressed to a specific speaker or to all of the speakers. So now I will pose our first question that we had from the chat. And that is, this one was posed to Lei.la. So Lei.la, from the China Daily Asia Pacific, there is a growing call across the world for a ceasefire. Where do you stand on this? Would a sustainable ceasefire mean a two-state solution, which many Arab leaders in other countries have been repeatedly calling for? Oh, and Lei.la, you're muted.
Now,
Yes.
I was sure we are calling also for ceasefire, but we know that Israel does not accept now, but all peoples of the world are calling for ceasefire, because the fire from the imperialists and their allies in our area, like Israel and other Arab countries, Arab governments, they just called for in their summit for ceasefire, whom they are calling. Israel is not listening to them. Why not making an action? First, to boycott Israel on all bases: diplomatic, political, educational, social, boycott to Israel. This is the first thing. They are not doing it. Others are doing it. For the workers to stop helping the products to come through seas and to the harbors to evacuate their products in our Arab countries, but also everywhere. We have an experience that workers in Algeria and in South Africa, no, not in Algeria, in Morocco, they didn't allow the ships to be evacuated from the products of Israel. This is one side of the duties. And also we are calling for unions to do their work, how to help the Palestinians and how to expose the brutality and the fascist face of Israel. This is Israel. If it's only, don't forget, it's not against Palestinians also. It's against humanity by all its policies that are experienced on our land, but they are against all peoples of the world. So we need to have a program for that. Universities can do their work. They cut ties with the Israeli universities. It will help a lot. Workers everywhere at harbors, at airports, not to allow the products of Israel to come to their countries. This is also another way of boycotting. But the main thing is to put sanctions on Israel. Until what time Israel is dealt with as a state above international law? They are violating every international law, every human law. The human rights of peoples are always violated by them. Why not having sanctions? So we go back to the governments. Pressure your governments. This is a time to pressure your governments and to link the atrocities of those governments against their people with the atrocities of what is happening in Palestine. Then the struggle will be globalized. I call upon you that it's also the imperialists wanted to globalize the whole world. On the other side, we call upon peoples of the world and upon the progressive forces in every country and the democratic forces in every country to globalize our struggle. We have to globalize our struggle, and we have steps for that. ILPS is one of the institutions that was established to connect all the struggles of the world by experiences that we can have in every country. And I think that this will help a lot also to face those war criminals in Tel Aviv and in the United States in the White House.
Thank you so much, Lei.La. We have another question directed for you, Lei.La. What is the role of Hamas in the Palestinian people's struggle for liberation? How do we respond to those who qualify their solidarity with a condemnation of Hamas? And you're muted again, Lei.La.
Hamas is a part and a component of our society, whether inside Palestine or outside Palestine. And it has its own ideology. But in the stage of liberation movements, we don't look upon ideologies. We look about how to liberate Palestine. And Hamas is a part of those who are holding arms to defend their people. So whatever they say about Hamas, they cannot control our minds, how we think about the components of the society. Look, in Vietnam, it's a good example. The nuns used to burn themselves against American invasion. But the communists looked upon that we have to have a front, a national front, and they did it. From the one who uses his body just to burn it to the communist one who is fighting. And between them, there were 50 parties in Vietnam. They were in a strong front for liberation of Vietnam. And they succeeded in spite of all the atrocities they faced and the sufferings that the Vietnamese were inflicted by those atrocities. Anyhow, in Algiers also, there were religious people and leftist people. And in between, there are the nationals also. They had the front and built and based on a program of resistance. And all of that ended up with the independence and the victorious revolution in Algiers. In South Africa, for 360 years, they were under apartheid regime from the British, from the Dutch, and from, I don't remember now, they were always colonized by all these. How did they liberate themselves when they were united? Now, we are all united to face the attack against our people. We are always united, although some differences, but these differences are below the main contradiction. The main contradiction to us is occupation and the imperialists who support them. So this front has been done and has been established before 1967. It was PLO, and PLO contained all the factions, all the parties on the Palestinian level. But what happened after the second and first Intifada, which marked history to our people in resistance. Everyone was calling Intifada in its language as Intifada, and which meant the resistance of a people, an unarmed people facing the arsenal of Israel. Then the leadership of PLO went to another line. They went to negotiations. We in the PFLP and in other parties, we were against it because we cannot go on for negotiations with the balance of forces who was to our enemies, but not to us. On the global, on the international level, on the Arab level, it was not the way to end an intifada that all the components of the people inside Palestine, outside Palestine were involved in. Now, we have Oslo Accords signed by the leadership of Yasser Arafat, the PLO leadership. This brought us a catastrophe. It wasn't because we want to liberate our land. To liberate a land and to liberate a people, it means that we have to go for a long way to reach that goal and to use all tools that we can have it, including solidarity of people around the world. So now we are united in the front. And this means that we have supported the resistance and we are part of it, not only supporting it, but also we are part of this resistance. Now, while we are talking to you, it's a part of resistance, talking to you, and you are listening to us and you want to do something for us, to express your solidarity and to extend your solidarity in many ways to our people. This means that the front is now on the ground, and those who think that like these negotiations will bring us liberation or freedom, even now they are trying to give us, they are calling for negotiations. Before negotiations, this attack should stop killing us. You can't say who is the victim now. We are the victims of this attack. Don't ask the victim how to defend itself. It can do it, but we can't put the sword in front of the neck. As Razan Kanafani said, that the sword and the neck can give up and be together because the swords are against us. And you know what symbolizes the sword in history and until now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lei.La. And of course, the ILPS, the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty, and all of us here today are a manifestation of that united front for Palestine and all people's struggle. Next, we have a question for both speakers. Maybe we'll pose it first to Razan. This is from Pinoy Weekly. What is your reaction on the recent Arab Islamic Summit, which condemned Israel's aggression on Gaza? Is it enough? And Razan, you're muted.
Actually, we were very disappointed. The only thing we wanted them to push for an immediate ceasefire and to use the powers they have, the tools they have to do that. They didn't do that. It was only words and condemnation. 2 billion Arabs and Muslims represented in this summit. It was really disappointing.
Thank you, Razan. And Lei.La, do you also have a response? And you're muted too.
Clearly, the question.
Yes, a response to the recent Arab Islamic Summit. And do you think it was enough that came out of that?
It's less than enough, my dear. I talked about this summit, that these governments and whom they represent, they don't represent their peoples. They represent their interests. That's why they did not dare even to say any word, any practical action to stop ceasefire. They can use oil, and they didn't use it. They can use their relations with other countries. They didn't do. They did not allow in some countries, Arab countries like the Emirates, to let people speak up. They even that they didn't do it. I just when in my introduction I said they could have used oil as a tool to stop those imperialists attacking us and the Zionists. Because if they say it, if they said that, and it's an important one, the gas and the fuel, to stop it for one day, the whole world will go against all the governments of the imperialists, because they will stop it to in support of the Palestinians. But they didn't do that. They don't dare do it. They are doing their best how to protect their thrones and how to protect their authorities.
This next one also is for both of you. I'll pose it to Razan first. How do we share the harrowing news coming out of Gaza without instilling a sense of defeatism, without engaging with Israeli Zionist propaganda?
I think I tried to answer this through my address today. We should always raise awareness of the root causes of this problem and link it with the heroic resistance that's taking place. I know it's very saddening and it's moral killing what's happening, but at the same time, there is this heroic resistance and the resilience. It is it's unprecedented. Like I told you, 100 years of massacres, and still they are resisting, and still they are not surrendering. So I think we can always link these horrific scenes with scenes of pride and dignity and resistance, and hope that the world will wake up and will stop this genocide.
Thank you, Razan. And we do have another question specifically for Lei.La. What are the immediate and long-term calls or demands of the PFLP in the course of the Palestinian struggle for national liberation?
We have a program, a political program, and the goal is to liberate Palestine, but to establish on that land, on Palestine, a system that is democratic for all who exist on that land. But the main step, the return of the Palestinian refugees to Palestine. And there we can, with the Israelis who want to still exist on that land, that we are equal in duties and rights. If not, those who came from outside and we were kicked outside of Palestine, we have the right to return. And there is a resolution Razan spoke about it in the United Nations. It wasn't implemented until now, since 75 years, and still we are calling to implement the International Resolution 194 that calls Israel to accept the Palestinians to go back to their homelands and to their properties. Until now, it is not implemented. Okay, then how to solve this paradox? How can we solve it? First, that Palestinians should have the right to return there. I'm from Haifa. I'm not allowed to go Haifa. And there are 12 million Palestinians outside Palestine are not allowed to go to their villages and to their. This is a very, the violation that Israel is always doing against all international laws dealing with the rights of people. Now, if they accept that, we can go together and discuss every bit of what will happen afterwards. We are saying that this project, that this goal that we are calling for, it's a democratic one, it's a human one. Those who do not want to accept us as owners of the land before them, that they go back to the countries that they came from. Every Israeli has two nationalities. They have a European one, where they came from, or from the other countries, and they have the Israeli one. So they have to choose either to accept or leave the land that you stole.
Thank you so much, Lei.La. We now have a question for Razan. The biggest climate conference will be hosted by the Middle East region this year. What is your message to world leaders, sustainability, and environmental advocates as the world prepares for this annual gathering, especially since agriculture, food, and water are expected to feature prominently?
Well, to start with, I think these platforms we do not trust. We feel they are controlled by the imperialist powers and with the big corporates. So to start with, I don't have any hope in them listening to us. Especially, it is going to be held in Emirates, and Emirates there's a difficult stage for free opinions. That's why we are boycotting this year this platform. I think if we'll try to talk to them, we will tell them that the root causes of climate change lies in their hands, in their destruction of the environment, in the militarism. For example, in Palestine, the uprooting of millions of trees. It increases the climate change problem. It is in the whole forests of the world. So even how they call for to face this climate change by mitigation and adaptation, they never speak about compensation, compensating the South of the horrific impact of their development, what so-called development, on the resources of the world, especially on the abuse of their power. And only if they stop militarism and if supporting, wars, and even in our region, they will be helping in the climate change problem. So there's a hypocrisy, there is imperialism even there. I can just tell them that the people will never forgive them, and we will always resist.
Thank you so much, Razan. There's actually another question I think we have for you, Razan, and that is, we keep being told by Western politicians and media that it is the fault of Hamas that there is no fuel to power hospital equipment or to operate the desalination plants in Gaza because they refuse to make it available. How do we counteract these claims that we keep hearing?
Oh, this is the black comedy. Accusing Hamas, they are destroying and bombarding the plants themselves. They are having closing. It's a prison, as all we know. There is no way to enter fuel to Gaza, and the plants and even the solar system, Cody. The solar system, the panels are being destroyed in Gaza. So I think. People in solidarity with Palestine should have these facts. We can help give facts to anybody interested with numbers, with facts that these lies should be stopped. People should know that the Gaza used to have 500 trucks every day coming to Gaza. Now it's 4 to 5 trucks that's carrying food, that's carrying medicine, that's carrying energy supplies and so on. So how can we face them? With raising awareness, with research, with collaborating with specialized resistance. Resistance has many faces. It's not only armed resistance is very important. It's our right, but also we can resist through facts, through raising awareness, through helping the media to have alternative media channels with financing. We have to agree that every person, everyone, especially in this group, I'm very proud to have around 250 people with us. Every person in this group can be a resistant fighter through so many endless means. Here, for this question, just give facts, help us convey the truth to the people.
Thank you so much, Razan. Of course, it is all of our duty to push to make the truth heard. That is why we're here today. Thank you so much. Another question. Let me just pull this up. Sorry. Okay. I guess we'll pose this to Lei.La first. As allies, are there strategies after a ceasefire that we should all power through for complete land back, complete return of the land? How do we advocate against a land invasion while our countries don't listen to us?
To begin with, what ended Razan, ended her answer, that we have to raise awareness. But I tell you, after ceasefire, we have to bring with us to Gaza, like what happened many years, that people come by ships to break the siege against Gaza. And when we say we want to come to visit Gaza, we don't want to see an Israeli on the borders. We have to go free, like when we go from one country to another. And there we have to have a big campaign to help the people restart their life. Can you imagine what a child that has been was saved from the rubbles of the house that was bombarded and lost all his family? How could he live? I don't know really. It's a big trauma for the whole people, but for the children whom I adore, they have nothing to do except to accept what's happening. Although they always ask the question, why? Why we don't have the same way of living that other children in the world are living? I tell you an incident when in Fukushima in Japan had the tsunami and what happened there. The children of Gaza took balloons and stood by the shore of the sea to send it to the children of Fukushima who lost their land. Our children are educated to speak to the whole world and to say, we are like you. We love others. We love other people who express their solidarity with us so for many years. So it's a responsibility to educate the children that after all, they have this trauma, of course, and sadness and grief. They lost their parents. They lost everything. So we have to prepare for them, not a surprise, small surprise. We have to carry the water for them. We have to carry the medicine, the clothes, the covers, and the winter is on the doors now. We have to bring them what makes life less brutal for them in their minds and in their hearts. I think from now we have to do that, to prepare what they need. Don't forget the books, the stories, the pencils to use. We will not forget the toys for them to play with and to restore their ordinary life like other children in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Lei.La. What an incredible example of solidarity from the children of Gaza for the people of Fukushima. That is the kind of solidarity we have to model and always bring up the next generation. Thank you so much. We'll also pose the question for you, Razan. So again, even as we continue to try to pressure our governments, especially my own right here in the Zionist Central Bank of the United States, as our governments refuse to listen to us, what else can we do?
I think the magnificent protest that was seen a few days ago, this was really heartwarming. I think what I feel, well, what's happening in the US, two things. I think there is fear of retaliation, you know, from Zionist groups, and this can be faced with working together in big groups, in big fronts, and so that people who stand for Palestine are not afraid, really. I know that Khaled, the congresswoman of Palestine, she receives lots of threats, and if people are around her strong, this threat will be much less. I think people should be working together. We should also, as I said, inform people. The media, the main media in the US is rotten, really, like in all Europe, unfortunately. People do not know. We should collaborate in enlightening this media, or creating, you know, we have written a letter to BBC. They asked us several times for interviews about what's happening in Gaza, especially in food, about food and the starvation. And we wrote a very strong letter to BBC rejecting talking to them. And we did a big research about their role as partners in this genocide. I think many media in the US are really partners in this genocide. We have to face them with, maybe we should raise legal lawsuits about how media can be a partner, you know. We were researching, for example, that before the Bosnia genocide, the media, I think it was the BBC as well, said that the Bosnian people decapitated babies, 41 babies at that time. And then when the massacre happened by the Serbians to the Bosnians, the Serbians felt themselves they are doing something good. Now, the number 40, that was a big lie, that the Palestinians decapitated 40 babies, also was through the media. And this resulted in more horrific attacks by the people. And it was like a green light given to the world to shut up against this genocide. So, and then the BBC also and other US media, maybe the CNN and others, were talking about Hamas being in hospitals. And this gave also a green light for genocide. So I think we can do a lot together if we keep on talking to each other, like tonight, for example. If we can make it periodic meetings, brainstorming. People are smart, intelligent, creative, but we have to work together. We have to put common strategies. With ILPS, I think we're doing a lot together, and I hope this can be broadened to include many other people. We should maybe from our side, what we are doing, we are preparing very professional material for people to use as to starvation and destroying of food resources and water resources and so on. And we're getting lots of reactions that people did not know. And maybe we could work together and as we are doing, but broaden the work to a better impact.
Thank you so much, Razan. We have two final questions that we'll pose for the open forum, and I want to remind all of our participants to get your physical solidarity messages ready, because at the end, we will hold them up for a picture. So write down on anything you have near you: free Palestine, stop the genocide, anything that you can give. So I'll let all of our participants get ready for that. Our second to last question is posed to Lei.la.
Thank you, ILPS.
For Lei.la, this question is concerning a hesitancy being detected from Arab communities in the West and in Muslim communities, as well as in supporting the resistance. Is it the correct approach to be silent about the resistance and to drag one's feet in its support and just point out the genocidal aspects and death? Or should the diasporas in the West take a stronger stance in being vocal about supporting the resistance, including Hamas, since it is the target of propaganda?
Resistance is a lawful and legal for any people under oppression. We can depend on the United Nations.
Lei.la, looks like you are muted.
About resistance, we are not speaking about.
You've become muted again, Lei.la. Sorry, Lei.la, you're still muted for us.
Of the Palestinians, by all means, because we have tried, or our people did not only hold arms, but also made an intifada. It was a peaceful means. Boycott is a peaceful means also. So we can speak about resistance as a right for the people. It doesn't need any evidence. We have to be back to history. We are not inventing a new way for liberation. All people in this world reach to their freedom by a revolution, not by a gift from others, from the enemies. No, it is always like that. So we have to remind also the people in our countries that you have to remember this history. And this history is full of evidences that resistance is a right. This is a human right. It's not only a right, just we say it this way. We are not afraid from saying the truth. It is a true thing. So people can understand. And I think with the social media all around this world, made the world like a village. So we can reach everyone. We can make conversations, we can make workshops about this, and we make workshops about terrorism. Who are the terrorists? This we should speak loud about it, because now there is a combination of resistance as a terrorist act, while occupation, it's not a peaceful means to occupy another people and another land. And by the way, we can give many, many examples about the massacres that happened to the Palestinians. I will remind you of Sabra and Shatila. This is one of the camps that faced a very rough, heroic, people were killed when they were sleeping because they are Palestinians. So we have to remind people and to educate people also with the facts of the realities, and the realities that are the evidence of being supporting the resistance.
Thank you, Lei.La. We have our final question here, and we'll pose it to both of you. Maybe first to Lei.La, since I believe you began to answer this in your earlier remarks. At this moment, how is the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, as a national front leading the liberation movement in Palestine so far? And what kind of support is needed to strengthen this national front itself?
You know, PLO should be to rebuild it again on basis of our charter and our program and the goals of struggle. Because when Oslo was accord, PLO was marginalized. Now we are trying our best to reach to a unity and PLO in PLO, and to rebuild it on new values and new vision for how to liberate our land. This is the role of the Palestinians, whether parties or civil communities or whatever, inside Palestine and outside Palestine, so that people can support this action by supporting the program of our, what is the last goal to reach it, to reach liberation, is to establish a state where all of us live together and on democratic basis and human basis, protecting our humanity all together. Without that, this war will be always continuing from generation to generation. I think it's hard to think that the Israelis will give up the Zionist ideology. If they quit it, they will be human beings who deserve to live with us in Palestine.
Thank you so much, Lei.La. And Razan will pose the same question to you.
Yes, I have to be really honest and say that the first thing we should do is us Palestinians. We should unite. Our divisions has really weakened us as resistance movements and as a cause. We have to unite. The other thing is we have to lose hope, all of us in the world, of the possibility of peace with the Zionists, because their existence is against our existence. There's no possibility. We have tried all means. You know, after Oslo, we lost most of our land in the West Bank. 400 times the settlements increased. So we have to lose. There's no possibility but to win and to come back all to Palestine. Somebody addressed a question about the two-state solution. There's no possibility of a two-state solution. The settlements has taken, the West Bank was a small piece of Palestine. Yet in the West Bank, the settlements has taken most of the West Bank. So there's no possibility of having two-state solution. Where should you put the Palestinians? There is only maybe 3 or 4% left where the Palestinians can have their state now. So to lose hope in any peace, there should be either justice, UN resolutions to be followed, and we should unite as Palestinians. And the third, which in my opinion is very, very important, and it has led to the freedom of South Africa, is to institutionalize our comradeship and our networking and our struggle together with the international people. This is of utmost importance to carry our voices through them, to our facts, our stories. We are humans, we are not numbers. We cannot reach the world without the help of the international solidarity. So these 3 points, I think they are my what I can see best to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Razan. And thank you both, Lei.La and Razan, so much, and to all of our audience and media for asking your questions. We're coming now to the end of this very significant, very incredible webinar. Before we finish up, I would like to call up our chairperson of the International League of People's Struggle, Len Cooper, for give us some final remarks. So the floor is yours, Len.
Thank you very, very much, Cody. Since its formation in 2001, the International League of People's Struggles has developed to be the largest mass people's global organisation fighting for genuine people's democracy and against imperialism in order to help liberate humanity. ILPS is a global alliance of anti-imperialist and other democratic organisations that champion social justice, human rights, and anti-imperialist struggles. ILPS has championed the struggle of the Palestinian people for freedom and liberation from imperialism and Zionism, and has opposed the inhuman, vicious, and illegal oppression of the Palestinian people by Zionism and its master, US imperialism. We have heard tonight from inspiring speakers, Razan, Lei.La, and Abdul, who have brilliantly summed up the Palestinian people's struggles and the new heights reached in the Palestinian struggle for liberation. The ILPS declares its unqualified support for and solidarity with the Palestinian people's struggle. Over the years, the ILPS has organised demonstrations and protests to raise awareness about the Palestinian cause. It supported the boycott and divestment campaigns against Israeli entities. It has supported humanitarian aid. It's made representations to governments. It has organised educational workshops and webinars. It has attended solidarity conferences on Palestine and has consistently expressed internal solidarity with the Palestinian people over the 22 years of ILPS existence. We must keep doing it. We must do it all again. We must step it up. We are delighted with the new heights recently scaled by the Palestinian people in their struggle for freedom and liberation from Zionism and imperialism. They broke through the Gaza siege and their open-air imprisonment. They broke through, as they should, provoked by decades of ethnic cleansing, genocide, displacement from home and country, kidnapping, murder and daily aggression by the Zionist apartheid regime. Now the Zionist apartheid regime and its backers in the USA have dispatched the Carrier Strike Group, a guided missile cruiser and 4 guided missile destroyers to the Eastern Mediterranean. Israel has amassed 100,000 troops at the border. It's called up 300,000 reservists and are bombing the daylights out of Gaza and other places in order to try to prevent the freedom and liberation of the Palestinian people. They are killing thousands of unarmed men, women and children, and they've made it clear they don't care. The Zionist state is clearly committing genocide as we speak. Only a more united and stiffer resistance by the Palestinians with the solidarity of the world's people can stop this new wave of imperialist and Zionist aggression. Indeed, the Zionist government may have declared war on October the 7th, but the previous 75 years of occupation and ethnic cleansing policies since the Nakba have been a never-ending war against the Palestinian people. What we see now is merely a heightened general offensive by Zionism within Palestine itself, with continuing aggression against neighbouring rival countries. The Zionists have openly declared war this time, but that's only because of the Palestinian resistance decision to unite in struggle, take up arms against the US-backed occupation state and its state-of-the-art military. For over 75 years, the Palestinian people have used every option they've had against the occupation of their land to no avail. The international governance system, the imperialist system, has allowed the occupation to become normalised with no end in sight. The people have chosen to take the courageous path of united coordination in armed resistance, bravely tearing up the Zionist-imposed border fence of Gaza and launching coordinated strikes in air, land and sea that inspired people's movements the world over to see a united people catching the military might of an imperialist satellite state off guard. The Palestinian resistance is the beacon to our resistance. By this, we mean that this strike against a stooge of imperialism is a move that weakens US imperialism as a whole. The global imperialist system is entering into a new stage of multipolar turmoil, from the US-NATO proxy war in Ukraine, to the build-up to war in Asia-Pacific, to the upsurge of people's movements for national self-determination in Latin America and Africa, and of the continued advance of armed resistance movements in the Philippines, India, Kurdistan, West Papua, and of course, Palestine. The Palestine resistance gives inspiration to all people struggling in this context for national and social liberation, and therefore we must support their resistance because it's our resistance. Now is the time to unite. We also condemn the attacks on Palestinian and Palestine solidarity organisations around the world. We're witnessing an unprecedented outlawing of democratic organisations and bans on free speech when it comes to the Palestinian cause, while pro-Zionist slogans are given full support, especially within the so-called democratic liberal states of North America and Europe. Now is the time to defend people's struggle and the rights in all of its forms. The ILPS therefore calls on all ILPS member organisations, networks, friends, supporters and the international community to organise and help organise mobilisations and mass action in solidarity with the just cause of the Palestinian people. Our members must take action in front of Israeli, US and European embassies to condemn the genocide and the attack on free speech. We must step up our solidarity for Palestinian freedom and liberation and call on our own government across the globe to demand an end to the blockade and the genocide and an end to the military aid for the Zionist state. We must organise and support ongoing actions in support of Palestinian resistance. The Palestinian people have an absolute right to resist. Resistance is not terrorism. Israel and imperialism are the real terrorists. Long live international solidarity. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Len. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And as you said, as we wrote in our ILPS global statement, the Palestinian resistance is a beacon to all of our resistance, and the League stands 100% in unconditional solidarity with the struggle of a united Palestine. Thank you again to all of our speakers, to Lei.La and Razan here in person, as well as to Abdul from speaking to us on video from Southern Lebanon. And thank you to everyone who came here today. I want to stress that it is a victory on its own that we had this webinar with over 200 people in attendance, since the Zionists are always trying to shut down these gatherings to silence. This is a victory that we were able to have this to keep the struggle going and to build solidarity. So, as we conclude, we want to lay down the concrete steps on how we can show and amplify our solidarity with the Palestinian people in their fight against genocide, injustice, and US Zionist occupation. And so, to give us our final calls to action, I'll call on our General Secretary of the ILPS, Lisa Massa, again.
Palestinian people against US-backed Zionist occupation. At this point, we want to share with you some of the actions that you and your organizations can do to support the struggle. Here's your quick and easy to follow toolkit to make a real impact. 1, take to the streets. Organize and join actions at Israeli and US Embassy and other institutions demanding accountability for the ongoing genocide. Join the boycott, divest, and sanction campaign against Israel. 2, conduct education and information campaign to educate the people on the Palestinian struggle and engage mainstream and alternative media. 3, sign up or sign on as an organization or individual to the urgent appeal of the Palestinian struggle for liberation and food sovereignty. 4, send a letter and express your concern to decision makers at the community, country, regional, and international levels. Express your condemnation of the ongoing genocide. And 5, participate in our online campaign. Show your solidarity by changing your profile picture to Stop the Genocide photo or proudly wear your kafiyeh. 6, follow us for real-time updates on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram flashed on the screen. Lastly, I want to repeat what Lei.La said. Globalize the and the ILPS views, as what our chair said, that the Palestinian struggle is the beacon of resistance against Zionism and US imperialism. Our call is to advance the democratic and anti-imperialist struggles in all fronts across the globe. Strengthen our international solidarity. Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I'll say again to our audience here, please stay on.